Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I am doing a tip video. At the beginning of March, I actually was asked to go to my old high school and talk to like one of the girls from the cosmetology class. Because I don't know like if you've been on my channel for any amount of time, but I have talked about how I actually am a licensed cosmetologist. I graduated from my high school with my license. There was like a really good program there where we could actually like go there, learn, take our state boards, and only have to pay for like 1/2 of like the test portion of the state board, so it was really great. But yeah, I'm licensed, so the current teacher there is actually a girl that I went to school with and I graduated with. And so yeah, so she had asked me if I could go up to the high school and talk to one of her students who had actually won the, I think it's the Skills USA makeup and aesthetics challenge for like this area or whatever. So she won it, and she's actually going to Virginia Beach in April to compete at like state level. So yeah, so a lot of these tips that I'm going to talk about in this video were things that I actually came up with when I was like going to go up there and talk to her about some things. I think there might be like 1 or 2 that I added in that I wish that I would have told her when I was up there, so hopefully she's watching this video and she still gets them. But yeah, so hopefully, you know, this video helps at least one person out there. Yeah, so also I'm doing my makeup during this video and I'm not talking about what I'm using, but again, I'm getting ready for work and this is like the only time that I can film, so apologies for me not talking about the products, but again, they're always listed in the description box if you see something that you like. Alright, so if you guys want to hear some good tips about doing your makeup, just keep watching. Okay, so like before I start telling you guys all about like the tips and stuff, I just want to let you know that if you see that my fingers are like really shiny in this video, I don't know if you can see, but it's because I filled them in yesterday and I was trying to go really fast and I ended up like cutting the crap out of myself, so I put Neosporin like all over my fingers, so that's what that is. Alright, so the first tip that I wanted to talk about is finding your eyebrow shape, which, I mean, I don't know if this is like a well-known bit of information, but when I did go up to the high school, it was something that they like hadn't really heard of. And what you want to do, like if you're trying to find your eyebrow shape, so like if you're someone kind of like me who has like very thin eyebrows, and I have like blonde eyebrows naturally, so it can kind of like in the beginning it was a little difficult for me to like figure out where I wanted my brows to be. But an easy trick is just to kind of take like a brush or something like this, and from the outer part of your nostril right here, you go straight up, and that's where your eyebrow is generally supposed to start. And then from the same point you go over the pupil of your eye, and then that is where you want the like arch, or that's where you kind of want it to start to go downward. And then if you go from the same point on your nose and to the outer corner of your eye, that's kind of where you would like the ends to be. So I've seen that in like a couple different videos, but I don't know, you know, if that's like common knowledge, but that is like a really helpful tip just to kind of like help you figure out where you kind of want your eyebrow to be. Alright, so tip 2. Overlining your lips. This is another thing that the girls didn't really, like they'd never really even heard of. And I feel like overlining your lips kind of became like this huge thing when Kylie Jenner, when like her lips first like hit everybody, like everyone was kind of like, oh, did she get lip injections, or you know, is it just makeup? And she kept telling everybody that it was just her makeup, it was just the way that she was doing it. Turns out that she did have lip injections, which whatever, I'm totally down with that. When I first like started thinking about how to overline my lips, I didn't necessarily know like how to do them without making them kind of look like clown lips. And what you want to do is like as you're lining your lips, you don't want to start from the very corner and immediately go up and start to like overline the entire lip. What you want to do if you're wanting like that more natural kind of like, oh, are those actually her lips type of a look, is you want to start out lining your lips how you would normally line them. Line your own, like your own lip line right here. And then as you get to right about here, that's when you kind of want to go up a little bit past your natural lip line, so that it does kind of, it goes from your, like the corner of your mouth, like where your actual lips are, but then in the middle, it kind of like goes up and goes down a little bit. And it kind of gives that more like kind of pouty effect to it without it looking like big old clown lips, like the whole lip is overdrawn. All right, tip 3, working forward and then working backwards when you're working with eyeshadow. That is something that I honestly have never heard anybody else like really talk about. Maybe they've probably done it, but they just didn't like say it. But that's something that has really kind of like helped me with like blending my eyeshadow out and making sure that everything is really smoked out and really just like faded outward. So I talk about it in pretty much every single video that I do eyeshadow. What I like to do is I like to kind of lay down a transition shade, so something really similar to my own natural skin tone. Like it won't, barely will even show up. And then from there, I like to work the colors up. So if I'm doing like a light brown, like a really light skin tone brown transition shade, from that I'll work up to a slightly darker brown, and then another slightly darker brown, and then so on and so forth until it's like all of the colors that I want. And then after I have that darkest brown on my eye, I'll literally work backwards from what I did. So I'll do that deepest brown, and then the next lightest, and then the next lightest, and then the next lightest. And it kind of just, it lays the product all the way down, and then it kind of goes backwards to kind of just like fade everything out. If that, I'm hoping that makes sense. It does, like if you want to see it in action, I do it in almost every single one of my eyeshadow tutorials. So, all right, tip 4. So highlighting and contouring. And actually I could probably put that with blush too. This is something, I know that a lot of people have, like they want to contour, but they have trouble figuring out where they kind of want like everything to be. Like they don't really know where to put the line, where to stop the line, you know, all of that type of stuff. And one thing that I actually found, I want to say it was either on Instagram or YouTube, obviously those are like my main two, but it was Makeup by Mario, the man that does Kim Kardashian's makeup. I can't pronounce his last name, so that's why I just said Makeup by Mario. But him and then Wayne Goss both have talked about this, and it's called the line trick. And what you want to do is you basically, again, I mean, if you want to use like a makeup brush to actually like physically show yourself. So what you want to do is you want to kind of just like imagine a line from the outer corner of your eye to 2 fingers next to your mouth. So you want to do this, 2 fingers next to the corner of your mouth, and then a line from the corner of your eye down to that. And you don't want to go above that line. So like if you're contouring, you want to stop right about here. And with your highlighter, you want to stop right about here. But you don't want to go over top of this line, because then you're going to start getting like darkness and just stuff, product that doesn't need to be there in this kind of little triangular area right here. So that's kind of like a little something that kind of helped me to figure out where I really want like my contour and my highlight and blush and all of that to kind of stop. Another thing about contouring that, again, if you watch any of my other videos, I pretty much do it in any like full face tutorial, is when you actually get your contour down, if you go back in with kind of like a brush like this, kind of like a smaller, you know, face brush or whatever, and then you take kind of like a lighter shade. So like I've been contouring with the Kat Von D Shade and Light palette, so I'll kind of like bronze with this color and then kind of go back in and sharpen it with this. But then after that product is down, I'll go back in with one of these lighter shades and run it just underneath of where that contour is, and that kind of really helps to sharpen that line up. Alright, so tip 5. Holding brushes at like a certain angle. So this is another thing that kind of helped me when I'm trying to kind of use any brush on my face, but specifically when I'm trying to like blend my eyeshadow out. Your tools are like one of the most important parts of makeup. If you have kind of like really cheap, not to your liking type of brushes, it's not going to be easy to blend stuff out. It's going to be very difficult. So I like, depending on what brush it is that I'm using. So like if I'm, let me see, my Cala 415 brush, like when I'm laying down a transition shade, I'm not going to be holding this brush up here, because if you hold it up here, it's going to be really like there's no give to it. So it's very like abrupt, like you're going in with all the color and it's going to be a very harsh just like lay down of that product. So instead what I like to do is I like to hold this brush kind of on the back, so like right here, so that there's like a little bit of give. And that kind of just like, it kind of is like a looser hold to it, so it kind of just helps to really like blend out everything without it just kind of like shoving all the color right in there. And I mean the same thing goes for like any of my face brushes. So like when I'm contouring, I'm not going to be like holding it up here, like I'm pretty much holding it on the back, just because it kind of helps to really just lay that product down lightly and build it up rather than just going in with all of it at once. It also that's like really good to like hold your brushes like on the actual brush itself. But another thing is like the angle that you hold those brushes at. So if I'm using my Morphe M330 to put color in the crease of my eye, I'm not going to be doing it right down here. Like I'm not going to be holding it all the way down here, because it's like that's going to lay the product down and it's going to blend it downwards, because the shape of this brush, it kind of deposits the color with the point, and then the like short little edges around the sides are what blend it out. So if you think about it, if you're holding it like this, the color's being deposited up here and then it's being blended downward. So what you want to do is actually hold it like this, so that it's laying the color down in the crease, but then it's blending it upwards on this side, if that makes any sense. Same goes for like this blending brush, Cala brush. You're not going to want to like do this. You're going to kind of want to hold it out here. So it kind of does like matter like what angle you kind of hold your brush at. All right, so tip number 6. When this is kind of, I think I've learned this from Jaclyn Hill. And if you're doing like a highlight, what you want to do, and like to make sure that it's not looking too dramatic, which I mean I love that like really bright out layer, like in your face type highlight, but what you want to do before you're kind of like done with your highlighting step is not just to look at yourself from the side and kind of like see it like glowing there, but look at yourself straight on in the mirror and make sure that there's not like a cast of white right here. Because if you use, so like in the Aurora Glow Kit from Anastasia, they have a white shade, Luna, right there on the top, and I like to use that, but I like to layer another highlighter over it. So like I'll do that just to kind of like get a glow, like a really bright glow, but then I'll go back over it with kind of like a golden highlight just to kind of get rid of that white cast, because it is gonna kind of like, if you look at yourself, it's gonna look like you have stripes of highlight right here. So what you want to do is either take a damp beauty blender, that's what Jaclyn does, or what I do is I just take kind of like a little fluffy brush and I kind of just like brush over it to kind of blend it out a little bit. But you want to lay that down enough to be able to kind of turn your head and have it show, but without it like looking straight on and looking like you have stripes on your face. So just be mindful of that. You know, look at yourself straight on in the mirror after you're done highlighting and just make sure that it does not look like you have stripes on your face. Alright, so tip 7, transition shades. This is like something that I never knew about until I started watching like YouTube tutorials, and it has made a world of difference with my eyeshadow, with contour, all of that type of stuff. So if this is like the first time that you're hearing about a transition shade, so basically what a transition shade is, like in eyeshadow speaking, it's kind of like an eyeshadow that's almost your skin color, pretty much, that you lay down as like a first step, kind of like a base for everything else, and it kind of just helps to make sure that everything is really like blendable. Like it really kind of helps with blending everything. So let me just show you. So if I were to use the Kat Von D Shade and Light eyeshadow palette, what I would do like as a first step is I would probably go in with either, let me see, with either this shade, I'm not going to pronounce the name, so either this one, this really light one, or this one over here, because it's like almost my skin tone and it like really wouldn't even show up on my skin. And then from there I would work just the colors darker, and that kind of just helps to kind of just like take away any tackiness of eyeshadow primer, kind of just lay down that base, and it really just helps to make everything that goes on top of it blend out nicely. I also saw on here, there's a girl, her name is Jackie Havorka. Her channel is Full Metal Jackson, and Jackson is not CK, it's an X. So she, I can't remember where she's originally from, but she actually visited my high school way back in the day when I was there, my cosmetology class, and spoke to us, and since then I've just been like obsessed with her style and like everything. But I was watching one of her videos the other day, and she actually does transition shades for her contour also. So she'll go in with like a really light color and kind of just use that to help blend out the edges, and it really kind of like helped to make sure that her contour was really blended and not like jaggedy or anything. Some really good transition shades that I personally like will use until the end of days is it's Makeup Geek Peaches and Cream, and then Peach Smoothie. Those two are really good. Peach Smoothie kind of has like a more orangey skin tone color to it, whereas Peaches and Cream kind of has more of a brown, I guess, tone, like a really light brown, almost skin tone color to it. Lately I've been using Peaches and Cream a lot more, just because I feel like Peach Smoothie goes really good with like those warm browns and with like orangey or yellowy colors and stuff like that. But Peaches and Cream is a really good one if you're really just not really like even wanting it to show that much. Obviously, if you're someone like with my skin tone, I don't know about like people with really deep skin tones, I think that would be like way too light, so you might want to go for something a little bit deeper, but that one kind of just works for people with like my pale skin tone. Okay, so tip 8. I don't even know if this is like, I don't know if this is like general knowledge or not, but again, if you're like new to all of this, this might be like a good tip for you. If you are somebody who is wanting a little bit like more coverage to your foundation, you probably would prefer to use a brush to apply your foundation. So either like something like this that kind of has like that flat top, or I mean even, let me see, even like a legit foundation brush like this. That is going to kind of add a little bit more coverage to your foundation, because the bristles are not going to be soaking up as much foundation and like taking it away from your skin. If you are somebody who kind of wants a little bit less coverage, that's where like sponges and like wet beauty blenders are probably going to be like your best friend, because what happens is when you're using a beauty blender, it kind of like, as you're applying it, it kind of soaks up a little bit of the foundation. So it's kind of taking a little bit more of that coverage away, and obviously if it's wet, it's kind of like mixing a little bit of that water in with it. So it is kind of like watering it down, I guess, a little bit on your face, so it ends up being a little bit less coverage than if you were to use a brush, which doesn't really soak up the pigment. Okay, so tip 9. One like little bit of advice that I can give if you're trying to kind of like get a bunch of stuff for yourself, or if you're just trying to like build a makeup kit for like other people. One thing that I would advise, obviously it's important to get good products to use on people, and obviously, you know, you want to use good products on yourself, but it's not always, I feel like, as important to get like super expensive like makeup products, because like mascara, you can get an amazing mascara from the drugstore, or like certain eyeshadows you can get from like Makeup Geek for like $5 to $6, and it's really not that big of like a big of a hole to your budget if you're kind of like splurging on that type of stuff. But like the thing that I feel like is most important for you to actually really kind of make sure like leave a good bit of money to, you don't have to spend a bunch of money on it, but you do kind of want to like leave most of your budget, I feel like, in my personal opinion, to your tools. Because if you are like using really crappy tools or like really cheap, like, I don't know, I don't want to say like $1 brushes, because honestly E.l.f. has some really amazing brushes, so I don't want to like put really cheap brushes down and say that you need to go spend like 60 bucks on a brush, because you don't. But what I'm saying is kind of just like focus like your attention more on getting good brushes and good tools to work with, because if you don't have good tools, you're not going to get a very good makeup application. So like right now when I'm like bronzing and contouring, if I were to use just like a really like scratchy, stiff, kind of like brush for this, it would not be laying down like this easily. It's not like just your skill that kind of like makes for a good makeup application, but it is also kind of the skill of your tools. So, you know, just kind of like really focus on what you're buying as far as your brushes and like sponges and all that type of stuff, because those, like, your tools really do make a world of difference when you're applying makeup to yourself or someone else. And again, I mean, I've talked about it on my channel. I had a couple videos that, or one video a couple videos ago that was all about like my favorite brushes, and pretty much all of them were from TJ Maxx or Morphe, which are both very affordable. So you definitely can, there are affordable options. I'm not saying to go splurge 100 bucks on a brush. Okay, so tip 10 with winged eyeliner. I talked about this in a video that I posted, it was like my last video, and it was all about like how I do my winged liner. One thing that, for me, because I have hooded eyes and have always kind of struggled with figuring out where I want my cat eye, because if you do it too high, then the skin kind of like goes over it and it like just disappears, or, you know, if you do it too low, it's just gonna not look right. But one thing that kind of has helped me with doing my winged liner is to kind of like, when I'm doing it, visualize if like my lower lash line, so it kind of like goes down and then back up, so kind of just visualize if this line continued to go out. So like the lower lash line, if it kind of just extended outward, that's where I want the bottom of my line to be. And I kind of just like reach that out towards like the bottom of my, like the tail of my brows, and that has kind of helped me. So if you want to see like a little bit more about that and watch me kind of like do it like on camera, that is the last video that I posted, so you can go check that one out. Alright, so tip 11. This is another thing that was kind of like very interesting to me. I had seen like in, if you know who James Charles is, like the first cover boy, there was a photo of him that got released where he was, I can't remember where he was, but he had used some type of a product, and I want to say that it had like SPF or something in it, and it ended up like they were doing flash photography, and he called himself Flashback Mary because his face turned out so incredibly white compared to everything else. So what you want to do to kind of just like avoid that happening to you is don't use like face products with SPF in them if you're gonna be around flash photography, because it's something like in that SPF that the flash literally like bounces off of and makes your face like super white and bright and just like not right. That all rhymed, and I really did not mean to do that. But yeah, so if you're kind of like doing makeup like on yourself for a photo shoot or on somebody else, just try to avoid using SPF foundation. So today I used the CC Plus It Cosmetics, the 50 plus SPF. This would be a terrible foundation to use for a photo shoot, but that kind of was like an interesting little tip that I had learned about. All right, so tip 12. When you're doing your eyebrows, one thing, today I didn't do it, and lately I honestly haven't been doing it, but if you kind of want that look to where your brows kind of are like lighter in here and fade out to darker, and they kind of just look like brushed out kind of in this little area here, if you actually just use 2 different products on your eyebrows instead of just like one, you can kind of achieve that. So I was using the Anastasia the brow definer in caramel for kind of just like this little front area here, and then I would go in with chocolate and just do like the arch in the tail. And like when you kind of blend them out with a spoolie, it really kind of like does that light color and fades out to that dark color. So yeah, if you kind of want that look, it might be easier to use 2 different products rather than just one and trying to like blend it out or whatever. All right, tip 13, which is one that it kind of sucks actually. It's not like the best one because it can be kind of discouraging, but it's skincare kind of makes for a better like makeup application. So I hate it because like I used to have really bad skin. Like in high school, it used to drive me absolutely insane because I would just have like breakouts all over my forehead and like through my T-zone area, and I would try to like pile on a bunch of like really like full coverage foundations, and I think mainly what had happened was it just kind of ended up looking really cakey and just really like not good at all. But like if you kind of like focus a little bit more just starting out on your skincare products rather than this isn't gonna stay looking like this, I promise, this highlighter, but if you kind of focus in the beginning a little bit more just on your skincare products instead of like, you know, a bunch of makeup, high or full coverage foundation and all that type of stuff to just pile on, it's gonna make for a better application because you can cover like redness or like the blue. Do you see what I mean about the highlighting? This is what I was talking about. If you look at yourself from the, you can see that white cast. Like from here, it's like bam, but then from the front, it kind of has that. Anyways, I trailed off. But yeah, if you have just like a little bit of redness or like dark circles under your eyes, those are going to be a lot easier to cover up because that's just like, that's a color to your skin rather than like texture. So if you have a lot of like acne or whatever, it's going to be a little bit more difficult for you to cover all of that like texture up rather than the color. So I would just, the tip overall would just be to focus a little bit on your skincare, kind of get your skin under wraps, kind of just like drink water, you know, moisturize, all of that type of stuff, and it is going to make your life 1,000 times easier when you're applying your makeup. All right, so tip 13, I think it's 13. I don't do this a lot because I feel like my eyes kind of get fogged over really easily with it, but if you're somebody that kind of likes to line your waterline, if you are doing like a dark color like black or dark brown or whatever, that is going to kind of make your eyes shrink a little bit. So it's gonna kind of give them the appearance that they are a little bit smaller. Whereas if you use kind of like a more skin toned or like lighter eyeliner on the inner waterline, it'll kind of like extend the whites of your eyes down a little bit and kind of make them look a little bit bigger than what they are. So yeah, if you're kind of wanting your eyes to look a little bit like smaller and kind of just like smoky, maybe then, you know, use like a black liner on your waterline. But if you are kind of wanting, if you have like smaller eyes and you want your eyes to kind of look a little bit more open, use like a skin toned or like a really light eyeliner, and it will kind of give that appearance of your eyes being a little bit like wider. All right, so tip 14. This is like something that has blown my mind and made my face like so much better. If you have like a blemish that pops up or like one that is like trying to pop up but it hasn't yet, like those ones that are really painful, or like if you have an event the next day or something like that. First of all, if you have an event the next day, no matter how much you want to, do not pop any like blemish on your face, because that is going to the next day just kind of leave like a scab, and it's going to kind of be like dry and like ugh. Whereas like I said, it's the color is a lot easier to cover up than texture. So you know, if you have like an event the next day, just refrain from like popping it and just let, you know, let either the makeup person that's doing your makeup, or if you're doing your own makeup, just cover up the color, because it's going to be a lot easier to cover that up than like a big, you know, crusty area. But anyways, if you have something that pops up the night before or something, or you know, whatever, something I've been doing lately is I'll take an Advil liquid capsule and I will poke a hole in the end of it with a needle, and you just kind of like squeeze a little bit out and kind of dab it on whatever blemish you have. Do not do it on open blemishes. So like if you pop something, do not put Advil on it because it will burn and it will be like the most uncomfortable experience of your life because it'll start like itching and it's just awful. But if you have something that is like not popped yet or anything like that, and you go ahead and you put an Advil, just dab a little bit on it, it should at least take a little bit of the pain away by the next day. But if you keep up with it over the next few days, it will disappear. Like, it's absolutely amazing. I've been doing that, and I've had spots disappear in a matter of like 2 days because of it, and it's absolutely amazing. That's one thing that I forgot to mention when I did visit the high school, and that's something that I wish that I would have said because it's absolutely like such a great tip. All right, so tip 16, with contouring, if you kind of want like me, I have this little like, I don't know, like right here that shows sometimes when I like move my head a certain way, and I'm sure to like some people it doesn't, like they don't even notice, but to me I kind of notice. So I don't always do it, honestly, but if you kind of want to like get rid of that little like area there, you can actually contour right here. So just be careful not like to blend everything out nicely, because you don't obviously want like a line under there. If you kind of want like a poutier look to your lips, you can even kind of contour just a little bit right here under your bottom lip, just like a little tiny bit, and just again make sure to blend everything out because you don't want to look like you have just like brown on your lip. But that is a tip if you kind of want like that poutier look to your lips, to just go ahead and contour a little bit under that bottom lip there. All right, so tip 17, this is the last tip that I have, and it is like sometimes your fingers can actually be your best tools. So I know that whenever I'm applying like one of the ColourPop Super Shock eyeshadows, they have kind of like that like fluffy like mousse kind of texture to them. They're not just like a regular old like eyeshadow pan from Makeup Geek. So ColourPop, when I'm like putting that on my eyelid, it's 1,000 times easier for me to just like kind of like rub my finger around in it and like dab it onto my lid than to try to like sit there and fight with a makeup brush to kind of like wiggle it in there and pile it onto my eye. So that's, you know, with certain eyeshadows, it's just 1,000 times easier to do it with your finger. Another thing is like sometimes when I'm doing concealer, I haven't been doing it lately just because whatever, but when you're putting concealer like in this little triangular area under your eyes, sometimes it's easier to kind of use your finger and to just melt that product in using like the heat of your own skin. And it kind of like gives like a more natural look than like if you were to use a beauty blender or a brush, which, I mean, obviously it's okay to use those, you know. I used to use the beauty blender, and I still kind of use the beauty blender when I'm doing that, but if I'm wanting that more natural, like set in, really like melted into my skin look, I'll use like the finger, like my finger, to kind of like melt that in there. All right, so I think that is all of my tips. Yeah, I'm gonna throw this on real quick, hold on. Alright guys, so that is all of the tips that I have for you today. A lot of them, yeah, like quite a few of them you can actually see in my like previous tutorials. Again, like the last video that I posted was about winged liner. So yeah, hopefully, you know, at least some of those could help some of you, at least one of you. So yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to hit the like button down below and to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I know that I didn't like talk about the products that I was using because I was talking about the tips and all of that type of stuff, but if you did see something that I used on my face today, and you liked it and wanted to know what it is, I'll have it listed down below in the description box, as well as like where I get my jewelry and my social and all of that type of stuff. Alright, I hope you all have a great day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!